What is going on, everyone? Today, Mike and myself decided to visit our good friend Leo at the Digital Press store located in Springfield, New Jersey. Now, this was just too lovely of a day, guys, to stay inside. So we had to go out, hit the open road, and hunt down for some games that still elude us. Kind of like Hyperstone Heist and Splatterhouse 3 on the Genesys. But enough about me not being able to find things. Let's go inside, check out some games, and chat with Leo a bit about owning and operating a retro game store. And remember, safety first, people. So let's mask up and check out what Digital Press has to offer. Channel, we really like to go to the retro game stores. Basically, us being in Central Jersey, it is like the epicenter. Like, there's a lot of game stores we can go and visit. So I just wanted to ask you some questions and really just get to kind of know more about the Springfield Digital Press store. So I guess, how'd you guys get started? Did you start in Clifton and then kind of work your way here?
Well, the first store was in Clifton. It started in the early 90s as a fanzine. That's where the name Digital Press comes from. Joe and I believe his name was Kevin, his best friend, started a fanzine, and they started mailing it out to the other friends that liked retro games, and then those friends spread it to their friends, and then their friends spread it to their friends, and before you knew it, they had people all over the country asking for a subscription to the Digital Press. And then that grew, and it grew into a whole bunch of different things. It grew into the Classic Gaming Expo, it grew into a whole other stuff. That's how Joe met Sean Kelly, who owns Video Games Then and Now in the Chicago area.
Okay.
And he's the one that I think gave Joe the idea to leave his desk job of 20 or 30 years.
Stupid office! Ah!
He does not like that wall.
And open a store. And that's how Joe opened the Digital Press in Clifton. And then over time, the museum was slowly growing into the traveling museum. And then at some point, it was going to become a physical location museum. And that's where I came in. I had started working at the Clifton Digital Press I looked it up, it was like 8 years ago now. So 2012, and I'd been there for a couple of years helping out, doing just about what everyone else does, but he needed somebody to run the store while he was opening the museum in Frisco, Texas, so I ran that store for him for a few years until the museum was set up. He came back, and then I needed a job. So everyone told me that I was good at running the Clifton store and that maybe I should do it myself. I didn't have much plans to doing it. It was never my goal, but everyone just kept telling me it was a good idea, and I was like, well, I liked doing it, so it's not the worst thing in the world. So This one opened up because a buddy of mine was going to open an arcade in Westfield. It wasn't the Yestercades, it was a different one. The Yestercades did end up moving to that spot. And he said, well, the spot's too big for me. You want to put like a little store in the arcade? Because it was like 8,000 square feet. So he's like, you could still put a 2,000-foot store in there and still have a massive arcade. That plan fell through, but I liked the area. I was like, there's really no stores here for at least like a half hour. Like the closest one was maybe Retro Classics in Somerville, which I think is 20 or 25 minutes from here. And then the Clifton Digital Press, which is like 15 minutes, 30 minutes to maybe 3 hours, depending on rush hour from here. So I was like, this is ideal. So I opened up here, and I've been here for 2-3 years now.
How long has the Springfield store been open?
2 or 3 years.
About 2, okay.
It opened in August of 2018, so it's been 2 years, 6 months, 1 year and 6 months. So can't really remember exactly how long it's been.
So what kind of drew you to opening a retro video game store?
Just running the Clifton store for so many years. I mean, I had been collecting before that. I'd been shopping at the Clifton Digital Press since they opened, and then when I was in high school, I got more involved in collecting because I had a job and a car and the ability to actually buy my own stuff and acquire it. And then I considered myself a collector once I actually started putting it on shelves, and it wasn't just games and boxes I was pulling out to play every once in a while. And then Joe needed somebody to work there to do something that I already knew how to do, so I applied for the job and I got it. And then, like I said, I ran the Clifton store for a couple years, and then when Joe came back to run it himself again, I needed a place to go, and Joe thought it was a good idea for me to open it. Anthony owns Game Zone. He kept telling me that I should do it, and a bunch of other people. I forget if Paul at Retro Classics ever mentioned it. He might have. But it was like everybody I knew was like, it's a good idea. You should just do it yourself now. So I did.
All right. So what's obviously you guys take game trade-ins. Any newer stuff? So anything like the new Xbox Series X stuff, PS5?
We do order new games. We primarily stick to Nintendo first party because they're the ones that hold their most value and they have the most demand. So I've ordered new Xbox One titles and I've ordered plenty of Switch titles. And it seems like it doesn't matter who makes the Xbox One game, it'll lose value very fast. And if it goes down at all before you sell it, that's your entire profit. New games, there's only like a 5 to 10% markup. And if it goes down by even $1, you're making next to nothing. So the Switch games almost never go down in price. So I order those because I know that I'll sell it before it goes down in price and I won't lose any money. I ordered like, a good example is Crash 4, I thought was a safe bet. I ordered 4 copies for PS4 and 2 copies for Xbox One. I was able to sell all 4 PlayStation 4 copies before the game went down to $40. And I sold 1 Xbox One copy, and I think I still have the other one. And then even Kingdom Hearts 3. I ordered maybe 4 of each for each console, and I still ended up with like 2 for the Xbox One that were sitting. And then the 5 in the series, they're just not even available at my distributors right now. They might be, and they're just not telling me because maybe I don't order enough. But that's just capitalism.
Okay. Do you get a lot of import games?
Not a whole lot. Occasionally I'll get people that trade some in, but there's just not a whole lot on the East Coast, I feel, because most people I talk to that have stores along the East Coast, they don't get nearly as many imports traded in. Occasionally you get somebody that imported directly from Japan, but it seems like when you go on the West Coast, not only is there a lot more people importing, there's also a lot more in the wild. I've even, talked to people that have lived on the East Coast who moved to the West Coast, and they said, yeah, you go to the flea markets and sometimes you'll see a Famicom or a Super Famicom. Or any Japanese console, and it's just because there's not only is it easier to get it to California than it is to get it to New Jersey, back then at least. There's a much larger population of people that lived in Japan who then moved to America and then still had the connections over there to do it. So I think that plays into it. We do take imports. It's just there's not nearly as many coming in as there are at some other places.
Do you, has anyone ever tried to trade in any like arcade PCBs, anything like that?
Sometimes, because they know I fix them and I work on them and I've got all these, so sometimes they'll hit me up with it. Fortunately, a lot of the times, a good amount of the people overvalue it and they expect me to pay like the same or more as what they feel it's worth. And the unfortunate truth is, because I've been in the arcade collecting market since before it has become as commonplace as it is, I tell them like I get guys all the time that come in with like a Pac-Man cabinet or a Miss Pac-Man cabinet, and they're like, I want $2,000 for it. And I'm like, you could probably get that. There's a lot of people want it. So there's probably somebody out there who's got $2,000 to burn and they want a Pac-Man, so they'll pay it. But I know for a fact that if I'm patient enough, one will fall in my lap for just a few $100s, and it might need very minor work. I'm not going to give you $2,000, not know what's going to happen to it as soon as I get it. So, because that cabinet at the end here was a Donkey Kong that ended up getting gutted because the Donkey Kong stuff was already missing, that I found on the side of the road. And then like the the Popeye was one that some other guy had in his garage in Clifton. The Donkey Kong 3, I forget where it came from, but then like the Space Invaders and the Pac-Man machine at Clifton, and then the Donkey Kong cabinet that's there now, I think, no, that was Pennsylvania. Those both came from some guy's basement. He just found, and then he put in his shed, and then we got for next to nothing because he just found them. He got them for free, and he just needed to get rid of them.
I need to drive where you're driving.
Right? Struck gold there.
Yeah, you go to Pennsylvania, you see it all the time. Most of these came from Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania people have what they'll call an outhouse, you know, a house outside of their house that they just put crap in. Like my Donkey Kong Jr. came from some guy's outhouse. He just needed space in there.
Segueing kind of into that and talking about repairing arcade PCBs, like recapping, things like that. Do you also do console repairs or any modding, like DC Digitals, anything like that?
Yeah, I do all matters of repairs and mods. I can do just about any mod. There are some that I usually will turn down just for time reasons. You know, if I don't have enough time and to do a certain mod, I'll usually turn it down because I know it's going to eat up too much of my time. And I'm like, there's plenty of other people that have better situations than I do, I'll call it, and that they can do it and not have to charge as much as I would for me to prioritize it over all the other things that I have to get done. And I do plenty of other repairs too. I enjoy the repairs more than the mods. The mods are just easier because the mods are often just plug and play. You just have to install the working mod into a working console, and as long as you did it right, it's going to work. It's not like a repair where somebody comes in with a Turbo Duo that has no CD audio, you replace all the caps, still has no CD audio, so now you have to spend days, if not weeks, looking for traces that are broken and repairing them, and even after you find one or two, you might still have to keep looking for another. Just about everybody here can do repairs up to an extent, but the more complicated and the more expensive mods I do myself, just because either they don't know how to do it or I don't want to teach them how to do like a DC Digital because God forbid they burn up a flex cable. That's a bit of a big deal.
Do you have any, people like Mike Chi that create the retro tank, you know, things like that can do like the perfect like upscaling for these original consoles. Do you plan on selling any of them, or do you sell any of them?
I don't, just because I feel like it's a much more limited market for those. Most of the guys that want that want the most up-to-date one, and they know where they can get it. So the need for me to have it here is a lot less. I've never talked to the guys that manufacture it, but I can't imagine they're dealing with a very high margin, so they probably can't sell it to me, and where I'd still be able to make a good enough margin to sell in the store and be competitive with them. But also, I don't know why I would want to be competitive with them because they're my manufacturer or the distributor. So I just leave it to them, and especially because like the stuff gets upgraded and replaced so often. The last thing I want is to get like I don't know, like a Retro Tank 2 or whatever the hell it's on, and then the 3 comes out, and now I'm stuck with a bunch of 2s, and they won't take them back, and I don't want to have to deal with that. Unfortunately, while they're not as good, I end up with a lot of the Hyperkin HDMI cables. because they're cheaper and more easily accessible for the general public. And while it isn't as good as like doing an Ultra HDMI mod on your 64, it's significantly cheaper. And for like the person that just wants to play the N64 for a weekend at their buddy's house and doesn't want to drop $200 and wants it now, it's good for that. So I end up with a lot more of those, and they sell a lot more. The RetroTink stuff, I feel like the people that want it, they get it, they know where to get it, they get it as soon as it's available, and a lot of those people pre-order it. So me having it in the store, not nearly as beneficial to me or everyone else.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, the way you just described everything. I never thought of it that way. Seeing all these arcade like games in the background here, when COVID, you know, wasn't a piece of crap and here for as long as it has been, did you guys host any type of like tournaments or allow a lot of free play? Is it quarter based?
Well, the arcade machines were primarily for play. They were just out here as a way to get people in here and something to do. And the biggest thing is actually 9 times out of 10 when somebody comes here, they're not coming here alone. And more than half of the time, the person they're coming with isn't really interested in the store. It's either a significant other, a parent, or a friend that just happened to be in the area at the time and just doesn't really care for this. But those people almost always play the arcade machines, and it's much better for them to sit here playing a machine for an hour than it is for them to be standing over the shoulder of the person looking around, bugging them like, can we done? Can we go? Yeah, this and that, because then they rush through the store, and then they don't pick up nearly as much as they would have, and also it kind of ruins their time by that other person having a bad time. Right. That person sits here, they have a good time, and then when the other person's done, they pick up their friend or significant other, and they go. We never really did many arcade tournaments. We would do high score challenges on occasion, just for fun. But we don't have a whole lot of fighting games here to host tournaments, and then the fighting game scene here is significantly smaller than it is somewhere like Brooklyn, where they have a very large arcade fighting scene, and always have. So here it would be a matter of building it up and then having to get people to come over here.
So you actually do get time to play a video game. What video games do you tend to play? Is it more FPS? Is it RPGs?
It's a lot of puzzle and adventure games.
Okay.
Or something I played when I was younger. Like a lot of people, and they don't even realize they do it. I play like what I played growing up that I enjoyed to de-stress when things are really bad. Like I played through a lot of Mario 64 a few years ago, just because I liked playing that as a kid, and it helped me relax. You know what I mean? And a lot of people do that without even realizing it. You know, people dealing with the stress of a full-time job and college and grown-up life, they end up wanting to play what they had growing up, and it's because that was a simpler and easier time, and it's easier to relax.
Exactly. Plug it in, play. You know, you don't need to spend a ton of hours on it like some games today.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of updates like some systems today.
The biggest thing is the rose-colored glasses, because you enjoyed it as a kid, and it doesn't matter if it's a good game or a bad game. You're not going to think about that. You're just going to remember how good it felt to play it back then. That's why the games you had growing up are always more enjoyable and easier to go back to than the games that you got later on that might be better. Like maybe you loved playing Ninja Gaiden growing up, and you play the hell out of it, and you still go back to it. And then you finally get Hagane, which, you know, is like a really good game and stupid expensive. You're still going to go back to Ninja Gaiden, and you're still going to have more fun playing Ninja Gaiden than you ever will with Hagane, because you didn't grow up with Hagane.
I got chills right now, dude. That just brought me back real fast. What's your favorite system?
If I'm with people, it's the 64, because that's a much better party system than almost anything.
So now that you said that, do you like the Switch at all?
I do like the Switch. I play the Switch a lot, mostly because I'm big into Pokemon and Zelda. So
Okay.
I played the Breath of the Wild is like the last game I played where I actually dedicated a significant amount of hours to. The new Pokemon games, I did put a lot of hours into it, but like Breath of the Wild was the only game in the past like 5 years where I actually like played for 6 hours, stayed up till 3 a.m. and then went to work in the morning.
That's awesome. So, hold on, I'm trying to think. So what's the most frequent games or systems that you see are being traded in to your store? I know the rarity of Dreamcast. That's, you know, huge, pretty rare. But like, is it Sega? Is it Nintendo? Is it PlayStation 2? PlayStation?
Nintendo definitely has the highest demand. Sega, Dreamcast, and Saturn are the ones that don't come in as often. The systems come in all the time. The games don't as much, and it's because most people that grew up with a Dreamcast didn't grow up with Dreamcast games. They grew up with CDRs. So there just aren't a lot of Dreamcast games out there because nobody had them, which is why the whole thing really failed in the first place. They were banking on game sales, and nobody was buying them. Everyone was just burning them. And then everyone's like, oh, why did it fail? I'm like, well, you didn't own any games.
Yeah, you didn't buy or own any games.
So many
exactly.
people are like, oh, I loved my Dreamcast as a kid. And I'm like, yeah, I know you did. Everything was on a CDR. But Nintendo's the one that comes in the most and goes out the most. I mean, right now, the most stuff that's getting traded in is like the PlayStation 4 because everybody's upgrading or trying to upgrade. But, you know, GameCube is the stuff that comes in and goes out. N64 is stuff that comes in and goes out. I've been selling a lot of Super Nintendo consoles. Not nearly as many games, which is weird. But it's always, they're always asking for like the same few games. So that's probably, they only want the system and then those 3 games. And since I don't have them, they don't get them.
Yeah, yeah. Is there like a rare, a high-priced game or system that you've come across in years, and what game would that be?
Here at this store, I got a Dinosaur's Peak after being open for just a month, and that sat for a while, and it sold during the Black Friday sale that year, and that was back when the price was only about $800. I think it's up now, but it actually went down since I sold it before it went back up. I've had Earthbound time and time again. I think I still have a Harvest Moon, but those aren't really rare or too expensive. Had a complete in box Castlevania Legends.
Wow.
It just, the stuff comes and goes so fast.
Yep,
It's like I got that high when it comes in, and then I usually forget about it because then the next thing comes in.
Yep. Cool.
Honestly, the super rare and expensive stuff isn't the stuff that I get excited for. It's the common but high demand stuff. You know, like I got Mario Party 6 right now, and I'm over the moon.
Yeah.
I'm way more excited about having like Mario Sunshine than I ever would have been about getting a Hagane.
I'm on the hunt for Turtles in Time and Hyperstone Heist. Those
Oh,
are the
okay.
two that I'm on the hunt for right now.
And they're not rare. They're just everyone else is looking for them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
As always, we just want to say thank you so much to everyone for checking out the channel. Please remember to hit like and subscribe by pushing buttons or pulling levers or however that works. I'm not incredibly sure. It means so much to us. It truly does. Again, thank you, and we hope everyone has a great day. Bye-bye now.